This work has changed my life so much because I have the tools and the resources to make it happen. You can literally have anything that you want if you take the time to look to see, do you feel deserving of it?
From To Be Magnetic, this is the Expanded Podcast with your host, Lacey Phillips.
And your host, Jessica Gill.
As the leading destination for neural manifestation, we dispel the woo-woo in order to help you create real, tangible results based on neuroplasticity, psychology, epigenetics, and energetics. Our goal is to normalize the practice of manifestation and empower you to get into the driver's seat of your life in order to manifest the experiences, relationships, and things that most align with your authenticity. Part of our manifestation process entails expanding past your limiting subconscious beliefs. Therefore, by tuning into this podcast with interviews from experts, thought leaders, spiritual teachers, scientists, and those with neural manifestation success stories, you're starting the process of expanding your subconscious in order to see to believe that anything you desire is possible. And by pressing play, the process begins.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Expanded. Jessica here. So I wanted to clue you into a couple of big updates that are going on in the world of TBM. One, we have a big challenge that we are preparing for at the end of June. I know I've gotten a few DMs recently of people saying they've fallen off their practice, they want an excitement to recommit, and we are hard at work behind the scenes setting up another new challenge similar to the unblocking challenge of last year, where we're really going to dive into your practice and hit it from a couple different angles and give you some new DIs in a step-by-step process. So stay tuned for that. The other update comes with a little bit more of a heavy heart. We are deciding to close the coaching program at To Be Magnetic. This was not an easy decision, but one that kind of came naturally as all of our coaches are evolving and up-leveling to their next versions and levels in life. When you work for a manifestation company, growing, evolving, continuing to be on that journey is par for the course. And it made sense that they would eventually have a point at which they would grow on and move to that next space. But they have truly all contributed so much to the To Be Magnetic community, have supported you guys, ushered you into new levels of yourself, new levels of unblocking, self-awareness to your manifestations. I mean, the work that they have all put in has been immeasurable, and we thank you all so much. Atara, Salwa, Heather, Amanda, we love you. We're going to miss you. We're excited for your next chapter and your next growth period and can't wait to see what you're going to do on the other side. And by the end of May, we're going to close out all bookings. You can still book unblocking sessions with Janelle Nelson and do intensives with her for EMDR. And we're going to kind of take a pause and really evaluate the best way to support you guys and figure out how to answer your questions and get you in community and get people manifesting and unblocking and in their authenticity. So we're working behind the scenes to figure out what that next level of support is going to look like. And in the meantime, you can be sure to follow myself and Lacey, Janelle, check in with us in the monthly check-ins where we answer your questions. And check in with each other. Community is so important. We had a beautiful community walk this weekend in LA where everyone just went for a walk in nature and chatted about what was coming up in their process. And it was so wonderful to be around people who were speaking the TBM language with us. So I encourage you guys to go out there and find your TBM communities and connect with them and share your stories and ask your questions, because you guys are also really good experts at this work by this point as well. And that brings me to today's episode. We have on Heather Whitaker, who is really sharing what it is like to know that you need to leave something that you absolutely love. Heather embodies the archetype of I can do it all. While she was full-time coaching for TBM, she was also full-time at a corporate job and had her first child while doing renovations and updates on her home. She is someone who tackles it all and has done so with a smile. And over the past year, it seems Heather has found, wait, where is there space for me? And am I giving from a place of true authenticity or from a place of fear or scarcity? And she's really embracing this next chapter that's all about her. So I'm excited to dive in. It's a topic that I deeply resonate with, and she's an incredible expander in knowing how to rest and start to put yourself first. Enjoy.
And now a word from our partners.
I don't know about all of you, but during the pandemic, I started thinning out a lot in my hair. I had a lot of hair shedding. It was a stressful time. I got sick multiple times, and unfortunately, I started losing some hair. And as someone who has very thin, fine hair, when I lose any amount of hair, it is very noticeable. So one of my goals for 2022 was to find hair care that would really support and thicken my hair and get it growing and moving again. In comes the Acton Acre hair care system. I started using them last summer and the results have been phenomenal. My absolutely favorite product by them that I keep recommending and gifting to everyone is their cold press scalp detox oil. I learned from their founder, who's a board-certified trichologist who specializes in holistic scalp health, that the scalp is really what helps the hair grow or not grow. So if you have too much buildup, debris from hard water, shampoos, lipids, and other unclean hair products, your hair is going to have a really hard time growing and growing lusciously. So she created and manifested an entire line of products that really help rebalance the scalp, bring nutrients to it, and help your hair grow and live its best life. So the detox oil will really help repair any imbalances in the scalp, promoting hair growth. It breaks down oil, buildup, soothes scalp irritation, inflammation, and reduces itchiness and flakiness. And I've got to say, this paired with their stem cell serum, which is also helping with any hair thinning, it really stimulates hair growth, helps strengthen the hair, especially after times of stress, which is what I went through in 2020. I had so much hair growth. I noticed immediately in the first couple of weeks with baby hairs at the front of my face, and then all of a sudden my hair had almost doubled in length over the past couple months. So much so that you guys in the community have been noticing and asking me what the heck I'm doing with my hair because it is growing like wild. So the duo that I am obsessed with is their stem cell serum as well as their scalp detox vitamin E oil. Try out this next level hair care support by going to actonacre.com and use the code TBM20 at checkout for 20% off your order. They have tons of other products, including a plant-based hair capsule that helps support your body from the inside out to help your hair grow and be resilient and thick as well. Again, the code is TBM20 for 20% off, and let us know how you like your new hair. So I'm sure you've heard the benefits of infrared saunas. They are the saunas that get you sweating and detoxing on a cellular level. It gives you more vibrant skin, helps lower your stress, improves your sleep, helps with soothing aching muscles, and aids in metabolism boosting. As someone who lives in a big city in an apartment, having a large sauna system would not be feasible. So I was always running out to different boutique places so I could get my sweat on. And I remember thinking, wow, I just wish I could do this at home. It'd be so much more convenient and so nice. I love to just pop into the sauna because I feel so much better after. In comes Bon Charge's sauna blanket. Truly feel like I have completely manifested this. We have been working with Bon Charge at Expanded for quite some time and already know how incredible their science-backed wellness products are. They are rigorous with their testing and make sure they have the lowest EMF and best quality and most effective product on the market. So when they had the sauna blanket, I was like, sign me up. I love it because it's a little bit bigger than some of the other sauna blankets on the market. So you have a lot more space to move around. And B, you can go in the buff. Now, as someone who maybe has tested other sauna blankets out there, you know that you have to have a lot of layers on, and putting all those layers on and sweating in them and then having to dry your clothes is kind of a whole process. So being able to go into a blanket that you can just sweat in, wipe it down really quickly after, and then pop into the shower, you will be having a complete spa day in your home. You can have it on a low temperature if you just want to rest your nervous system, or a high temperature if you really want to deeply sweat. But it has been the best investment I have had, bar none, over the past year. And if you guys are interested in testing it out or trying one for yourself, you can head to their website, boncharge.com, and use the code MAGNETIC, all caps, MAGNETIC, for 15% off. Again, that's MAGNETIC, all caps, MAGNETIC, for 15% off.
All right, on to the episode.
Today we have on TBM Coach Heather Whitaker with a big announcement, and really diving into this huge up-level season for you, Heather. You have been such a incredible, I don't know why I want to use the word role model, but expander in so many ways since your very beginning of meeting at the live event, and just how embodied you are in your decisions and confidence in what you want out of life, and how much time that you give those decisions, and also your journey in releasing the control, surrendering to new chapters, surrendering, and doing it with such grace. So I feel like that's a lot of the themes we'll touch on today. But before we kick into all of it, give us your big announcement.
Well, thank you for that. That was really kind of makes me a little bit emotional, to be totally honest. So thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think the big announcement is at the end of May, I will be ending my 3 years of coaching with TBM. It was definitely a big step through fear for me to finally make that decision, for me to actually send the email to Lacey and team, to voice note you to say that this is the decision that I'm making. It had been on my heart for a really long time, and I kept finding reasons to push it off because I love it so much, because it fulfills me in ways that nothing has as of yet. And so it was really hard. And I think that, and we'll go into this, but a big part of this is that just because I can doesn't mean that I should, right? And sometimes even when you love something and adore it, and in your bones, it's just a part of you, sometimes it's not your season. And right now, coaching is not what's best for me and for my family. I really am owning and embracing that this is my mom era. And I fought that for a really long time. And, my son is 1.5 years, and I feel like I'm just really, really owning that. And it feels really empowering. And it feels very like old school to just be like, I want to just own being a mom versus this feeling of women empowerment. But I actually feel really empowered to say, I want that to be a bigger priority. And there's a little bit of shame that it hasn't been. And so I'm ready for that.
I think that's such a important thing. And I've so recognized that dynamic that you're talking about, because I think in this day and age, there's a lot of pressure and excitement for women to go out and take their careers by the reins. They can go out, become whoever they want, say what they want, do what they want. They have, the most support that they really ever have at any time. Still, there's tons of limitations and struggles and things like that. But it's a really beautiful time where you're seeing these crazy careers of women out there. And there's almost this narrative, at least that's been kind of subconsciously in my head, which is just staying home and being a mom is something I'll do when I achieve all the things. It's like a check mark. It's not an end goal. And I think even for myself, as I get closer to that age and thinking about family planning, I'm like, wait, what if that is the goal? What if this whole idea of achieve is great for this season, but then what if there comes a season where the family is the thing, and that is what I'm going to focus on, and celebrating that and not thinking I don't know, in my mind, I've always thought, okay, yeah, and I have a kid and then I'll do maternity leave, but then I'll go back to work and then, I'll hit this next career milestone. And that is always in my head. There's never been a thought of like, no, I would focus on the family. And I think that's really beautiful that you say the importance of that and the celebration of that and the authenticity of you going for that.
Well, and when I looked back at my authentic code, 3 years ago or even 4 years ago, and movement was on there, right? And it was about forward movement. It was about not feeling stagnant. So that it was this very masculine energy of striving. And when I think about, even when I was a kid, my mom always said, don't depend on a man, don't get married. Like, it was always take care of yourself, be very like money focused. And so this is going to be a very confident comment, but like, I've literally kicked ass in career. I have climbed that corporate ladder. I've gotten every job I've ever wanted, gotten the pay, I've been able to negotiate. I feel so confident in that. There's control in it. It's structure, it's goal oriented, and it's powerful. And I always felt like I was thriving, but what it really was just surviving this feeling of like, go, go, go. And so, when my husband and I decided okay, we're going to attempt to get pregnant and do this back in 2020, I was like, and we had an episode about this. I had to like really get into my feminine. And what I've realized that it was very situational femininity. It was like, I'm going to choose when to turn it on. But my comfort zone is this masculine. It's this identity that my self-worth is tied to accolades from title and accolades from bonuses and pay raises, etc. And so last year, actually it was December of 2021, right after I'd had Hayes, I'd gone back to coaching only 4 weeks. I mean, I wore Hayes on my first coaching session back because I was like, I can still coach, like I can still do this. And coaching never felt like a job. It just felt like another way to connect with myself and to others. So I never really counted it as work. It was just something I truly enjoyed. It was never about the money for me. It was always about, I guess, connecting back to the community, which was always a part of my authentic code, and it feeling like I was supporting others while also supporting myself, because every time I would coach somebody, there was a message for myself. But the point is that like when I returned back to work after 12 weeks, I was like, already like, how can I make sure that I'm going to get a promotion? I'm a brand new mom and I can still get the promotion and I can still do this. And I hired a nanny and it was like, my kid's covered. Where can I go in my career? And I had a job on my list for 10 years and they called and I took it. And it was, again, that dopamine hit of like, look at this, I'm a brand new mom and this job that I've had on my list for 10 years and I just got it, like, hell yeah, like I'm back in it. It doesn't matter that like I'm sleep deprived and I was breastfeeding while on Zoom calls and trying to like pump on airplanes on work trips. I just was like, I can do this. And I was just so tired. I was so tired. And I just was like, it doesn't matter. Got to keep going. And turns out the job was not right. It was ego. Duh. And I remember looking at my husband and I was like, I made a mistake. This is not the right job for me. And he was like, this is what you've wanted for so long. And I was like, actually, what I want is just a job that lets me be done at 4:30 and like lets me be a mom. And he was like, give it some time. Like he basically was just like, I think you need to think about this. And as soon as I said out loud, no, I need a better balance, the job I currently have reached out. And it's a mental health company. And it's amazing culture. And when I interviewed with them, they said, what's your non-negotiable? And I said, I want to feel supported. I want to feel part of a team. And I want to be respected that I have a child. And that there are going to be things that I have to say no to. And they were like, done. Great. And so then I started cutting back on my hours of coaching. Instead of 5 days a week, I'll go to 3 days a week. And so it just kind of felt like I was slowly easing into this. And every time I was like, I think I'm going to stop coaching altogether. And then I would get a client who was like, thank you so much. My life was changed, or some like beautiful comment and I was like, I can't leave this. This is just so crucial of who I am as a person. But what I really found is that I was still letting fulfillment come from outside of myself. I was still letting fulfillment come from something other than my home and family. And I still was looking outside for versus can I feel fulfilled and still have purpose with my own unit? And that was like a struggle to like really think about that.
Let's go back. There's so much to dive into.
I know.
Let's go back to the job that you had wanted for 10 years that you got and how you're like, it was so obviously ego, duh. But I think for a lot of people, it's really hard to recognize what is ego, what is me feeling small or dealing with uncertainty or newness. How could you break it down for someone to explain what the pillars are that you recognize that said, oh, this is ego? And even break it down even further, because I think this idea of like ego and ego death is so thrown out there. It's ego is needing the validation from outside things in a very simple term.
Yeah. So the reason why that job came in is because I initially released it. When I had it on my list for 10 years, it was because, when I have this name of this company on my resume, on my LinkedIn, I will have made it. It was kind of like, I hate to say like your dream job because I actually don't believe in that. I feel like it's all about what do you need right now. But it was definitely like a dream job. And it was very much like, how would it appear to the outside world? So as soon as I finally like let that go, of course they called. It's always like that. But the reason why it was ego is because of the title. So the title of it was a much higher position that I'd had. It was a significant amount more money, but it was not the role that I wanted. And I knew someone that worked there and they were like, just take it anyways, just to get in. And I was like, oh, this is not right. I mean, I knew it. I was like coaching myself through it. I was like, oh man, like I let this go. Here it is. It's more money. It's more like a bigger title. And everything about it would have been okay, except what I was doing just was not in alignment with me. It was not it. And I took it anyways because I felt like I needed to walk through the fire. I knew it going into it. I need to get this out of my system. It will always be a what if I don't. And I actually had told my boss that, the company I was leaving, I said, if I don't take this, I will always wonder. I need to get out of my system. And so I kind of took it as like, all right, I'm going to walk through this fire. I'm going to get it out of my system. I sure hope that it turns out better than what it feels like. But I knew going into it, but it was just one of those like, I'll make this work. Because that's kind of my unfortunate personality. I can push through anything. I can get through anything. I can do it. And I'll survive. And so it definitely was that. And so to go back to your question of looking at that, it was like, what was my intention behind it? It was not authentic, right? The intention behind it was, okay, I've wanted it for a really long time. I've gotten through the whole process of it. There was people pleasing in there. Oh man, I'm going to have to tell my friend, like, this isn't right for me. And then it was, looking to see like, okay, I know that going into this, I'm okay with whatever ends up happening because I need to just kind of get through it and know that if it doesn't work out, I know that I tried and I won't have to wonder anymore.
I think that's a really valuable lesson too, because people are so afraid to run into the fire. The second they see something might be a test, they sprint the opposite direction. If you're at a place where you can just confidently say no and be like, that doesn't align, it's not for me, I'm out. But if you have that wonder and you do run into the fire, you don't have to feel shame about it. It's actually really beautifully helping you up level because it's expanding you in what you don't want in such a visceral way that if you didn't run into the fire, that what if might still be there.
And that's the thing is that I knew that. I knew it going into it. I know my pattern so well. I let it go so it came and I was like, okay, well, here it is. And as soon as I knew, oh God, this doesn't feel right, but I have to play it out. I mean, I can like hear Lacey talking about like, and it's usually in relationships. All right, just, step through it. You got to do it. And I knew exactly what I was doing. I got to get this out of my system. It only lasted 6 months, so definitely not as long as I had anticipated. And there was some shame to let it go. And when I decided to tell my boss, I told him, I said, you need someone who's just as excited as you are about this. And that is not me. I am not the right person for this role. And, it's uncomfortable to tell you that, but you want someone that's all in, and I am not that for you.
What led to that point where you're like, okay, I've run through the fire, I'm in it, it's not right, I gotta go? What were those internal check marks? Because I think people now listening in might be like, okay, I think I may have run into the fire. I'm doing this dance, this thing isn't right for me. I need to jump off a cliff to leave. How do I know when is the time or when the cliff's going to jump off for me, so to speak?
It was so strong. It was like a feeling in my body, like every day, I hate this. Oh my goodness. And I kept telling my husband, I just was like, it's not right. And he just kept saying, I think you need to give it more time. I think you need to give it more time. And I was like, I physically can't give it more time. Everything in my body says go. And the fact that I even lasted 6 months was a really long time. And I think that it was just one of those things of like, oh man, this doesn't feel right. Went back to my authentic code. I don't feel connected to it. Okay. I don't feel supported in any way. Is this an overall good experience? No. How is this affecting my comfort in life? I mean, it's not like the job was so terrible that they were being mean to me, but it was affecting now outside of work. When I took it, it seemed like it fit. That's the thing. That's the trick here, is that it seemed like it fit, just like coaching fits my code. So you have to look at it closely, is that I know we talk about authentic code a lot, and you can make anything fit. You really can. And so you have to get super clear on, okay, it fits, but how does it feel? In any way, does it feel forced? I'm really good at forcing. I can force a square peg into a round hole with anything.
I think that is such an interesting piece because I think sometimes people look back and they're like, well, it checks, all the boxes of my authentic code. But that's why when you're writing your list, like I love when you had that list for the job afterward, which is like, I need to feel supported. I need to feel this. Like, how do you want to feel in that position? Like I've even come up on that over the past year where I'll put like certain material things on my list that I like think are going to give me a certain feeling, but I didn't specify how that was going to come through or what that thing was. And the way in which it was coming through, I was like, oh shit, I don't want it like this. This doesn't feel right at all. And I had to really go back and almost redo my list and be like, if this comes through, I want it to feel like this. These are my non-negotiables in how it connects and comes through. Otherwise, it's actually a burden to have that come through.
And that's, I think, really important because I have all of my clients, including myself, look at authentic code with everything. But also so much of our specifics is really going to get you in how is that going to make you feel. And you can say that something is going to make you feel supported. And the way that I looked at it with that particular job is that like I could afford support. So my salary allowed for me to pay for a nanny. But I didn't feel supported by a team. I didn't feel supported by my boss. So like, do you see how it fit support because the salary allowed me to pay for support, but I wasn't receiving support. Some of that stuff you can really start to pay attention to. So now it's like when I think about support, can I pay for it? Can I receive it? Can I give it? Can I ask for it? Am I giving it to myself? I go into full detail now versus just like, oh yeah, cool. This is a great job. I can pay for a nanny. Supported, check. It's so much more detail going into that.
And, I can pay for a nanny is still surface level because it's meeting your physical material needs of needing to support your child. But is it your emotional needs? If you think of authentic code, this is kind of a new thought.
Okay.
If you think about each pillar from a physical, emotional, and spiritual sense, are you getting all three of those met for your authentic code elements? Because if you're not, then something's out of whack.
Absolutely. And that's where I was kind of saying is that you can finagle it to make it work. But to your point on all three of those, that's really important. Each year, I typically choose a theme or a word. And for 2023, my theme is my needs matter. But what I found is my actions were not in alignment with my needs matter. In my mind, I'm like, yeah, my needs matter. But when I compared it to what was I doing, meaning all of the things, that was showing that my needs don't matter.
Okay, talk about this a little bit. And you actually even coached me through the actions being in aligned with that belief system, because I think there's so many times we make excuses for, well, you especially can do that because you can fit the square peg into the round hole, is we say, yeah, I can handle it. I see that they can't handle it. I can handle it. It's not that big of a deal to me. But that is not communicating that your needs matter. You are saying that, oh, I can see that they're having a hard time or this person's going through this, so I'll just take on the brunt of it. It's not that much of a stress to me. And it actually really is when it comes to manifestation.
Yeah. And so I think that that's another big part of it is that, so to me, manifestation means to receive the things that you want because you feel deserving of it. And so when we feel deserving of it, there's intention behind all of that, right? And so I look at, okay, well, what's my intention behind this? Why am I doing this? Why am I saying this? Why am I feeling this? I would say that like the best thing about this work for me is true awareness to self. And that I constantly am looking at what's my role in this? How do I play a part in this? It takes blame away from other people and it puts the onus back on us. And I'm very aware when I'm like, oh yeah, I'm playing that role. Okay, well, what's my intention behind this? Okay, is there fear behind this? Like, what's the root? So I think to that point is it's like looking to see what is your why? Why are you doing it? And if you continue to like take it all on, what's the fear behind it? And most of it, the fear is whether it's not being good enough or fear of, there's so many different things. And I think about why I do all of it. Part of it's control. The other part of it is maybe I'll look weak if I don't. And I think that plays a part in, it's like I have a full-time job. I am a coach. I'm a mom. I run a household. I make most of the decisions. And so if I start to let anything go, is it going to look like I can't handle it? So I've had to like really look to see like, what does that look like as well?
How do you feel like this shifts your identity? As you were having to let go of this job that you had sort of on this pedestal, and then move into like, okay, my needs matter. How can I start taking action that's in alignment with it? It's getting closer and closer. You're peeling back the things that are inhibiting that. How is this starting to shift your identity as the doer, the one who has everything in control?
And I'm going to, just trigger warning, I'm going to talk about loss for a second. We got pregnant back in October of last year with our second baby. And, there was a lot of excitement. And, we ended up losing the baby at our 8-week appointment. And, unfortunately, it's very common. It happens to 1 in 4 women. It was not on my radar. So it was like a total shock. Of course, there was a grieving period. But I'm a true believer that everything happens for a reason. And that's my belief. I do believe that everything happens for a reason. And I was able to step out and know that that was not something that I didn't manifest a miscarriage, right? Like
No.
that happened. But I choose to look at things to be my teacher, right? Like just like back in 2017 when I was attacked, my attacker is my teacher. There was something to learn in this miscarriage. So that also really prompted me to look to see what's taking up space to receive. We are calling in another baby. And so when I think about that, it's like looking to see, I know you're asking me about identity, is it like, what was I still holding on to? And it was at the time, this was the end of November going into December. I still was coaching 5 days a week. I still, my job, like it still was just all the things. And I'm like, what's taking up space? What's taking up space that doesn't allow me to receive? And what was taking up space was my identity. I know that sounds crazy because it's not like it was a physical thing, but my identity was taking up space. I mean, I have so many friends who are like, I don't understand how you can do it all, but in a very complimentary way, right? Like, oh my gosh, like you're incredible. Like you can do all these things and you still get up at 5 and you still journal and you still work out at 6 before your son gets up. And how do you do it all? And I just was like, fuck, I don't want to. I don't want to do it all. And I don't know how to stop. That was another thing. This is my identity. I can do it all. I can do it all. I mean, even my husband, God bless him, he's like, he forgets to just like check in with me. I'm like doing it all, getting everything done. And I mean, sometimes I'm like, hey, do you want to just like check in? And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. He's like, you're just doing it. And so
You're
that's
so capable.
Yes. Yes. And so to answer your question, my identity was in the way. It was taking up space. And so I had to peel back. What are all of these layers? I went back to looking at all of the different authentic codes. I went back to looking at all of this like very desperate pick me energy that I was able to use to like progress and move forward. And so when I think about what is this energy that I really want to embody, I'd had ease on my authentic code for so long because it wasn't natural. And so I put it on there so that it was a focus. And it wasn't, even though it was there, it wasn't coming. It was because I was in my own way. I had to get out of my way. And the only way that I could do that was really start to take things away that I guess still fueled my ego, which is weird to say that coaching fuels my ego. But what it was like, I could do a full day of work and have a coaching session, just feel lit up and on fire and just walk out of that session going like, damn, I killed that. It was so great. Like, God, I love this so much. But then I would be so tired and I would just not be able to give fully to my husband or to my son or to myself. And so looking at all of these things I was holding on to, okay, and I'd already let the big ego job go last year. I'm in a job right now that I love. What else takes up space? Okay, I'm working on this identity that like I can like really own being a mom. I can really step into what it feels like to just nurture everyone around me. But that also means then there's a piece that I have to let go. And that's where coaching came in to start to let go. And I'd heard this podcast with Danny Beinstein. I think it was back in February or early March, and her message. And then you and I kind of talked about the Natalie Miles message of all in. And it was like, where am I all in? And I was not all in a lot of places. I was doing a lot of things half-ass. And I was like, okay, what can I eliminate to give more of myself to?
I want to take a moment for all of the people out there listening who identify with feeling like the burden is on you, that you have to be the capable one, that you have to continually prove your worth and prove yourself by doing and how capable, or maybe you just feel more comfortable in that control seat. Maybe that's a spot that you need to step up in your family dynamic as a mom, as a parent, as a father, whatever your role is. Can you give a second of breath to that person inside of you who is exhausted? Because I think there's a lot of people out there who are just exhausted.
Yes.
So let's take a breath.
By now, you're starting to get the feel for TBM. Maybe you've heard about our workshops and you're interested in manifestation, but you just don't have the time or energy to sit down and do self-help work. We totally get it. In fact, that's why we created the Daily Practice, which is our massive library of self-hypnosis tracks that you can do anytime without having to jump into a workshop. We call these tracks our Deep Imaginings, or DIs. DIs are different than normal meditations because we designed them using a combination of self-hypnosis techniques, deep theta waves, EMDR-informed tools, and somatic experiencing. A fully loaded formula that is scientifically proven to help you clear your blocks and triggers on a subconscious level, giving you the power to actually create new neural pathways in your brain. So if your boss pisses you off, use our trigger DI. If you want to feel magnetic before a party or an important meeting, use the magnetic self DI. If you're feeling anxious or down on yourself or you need help making a decision, we've got a DI for all of these scenarios and more. You can get full access to the daily practice inside the Pathway membership, where you'll also get unlimited access to every workshop, tool, and offering from TBM. The tools in the Pathway membership will support you year-round, whether you're in the worst, a rock bottom, or second worst, a rut, or feeling good and you want to keep the magnetism going. In the Pathway, you'll effectively learn how to become your own manifestation coach, all for less than $1 a day. So even if you're not ready to start a workshop, join the Pathway and start rewriting your neural pathways now to create magnetism. Work through your triggers and get closer to your authentic magnetic self in order to manifest. Use our special code MAGNETIC, all caps, MAGNETIC, to receive $20 off your first TBM purchase. Again, that's all caps, MAGNETIC. Now back to the episode.
Yeah, I just feel like that's so common. That story is so common. There is just a feeling of like, I can do it all. I should do it all. I have to do it all.
I want to do it all.
Yes, it makes me feel good when I do it all.
Yes.
Where do you think that comes from?
So when I was a kid, I watched my mom do it all. Right? Single mom, she's a hairdresser, and she did it all. She got up at 6 a.m. and cooked us dinner so that when our babysitter at night was giving us a home-cooked meal, it was just reheated. She stressed herself out to get it all done. My stepmom is the same exact way. So when I go back through, and my missing piece is that I was not expanded in seeing people put themselves first. I was not expanded in seeing balance. I was not expanded in seeing that it's okay to slow down at all. And so I just kept up with it because it was working for me. And I'm saying that in quotations. It was just like, okay, well, it's working. I'm going to keep going. I think I also, I worked through so much like lack mentality which had also been a part of my identity. That lack fueled me. So now that I don't feel that anymore, I don't have lack mentality. It was like, okay, then why am I still pushing so hard? Well, it's what you're used to. It's like downshifting a gears. You can't just all of a sudden decide, okay, I'm just gonna do less. If there's fear in doing less, why is that? What's this fear? And that's why I love, and I know I have said this so much, but I love the new DIs that we released during the Unblocking Challenge back in June. I use it for myself and my clients all the time. Like, what's my block? What's my fears? And if I remove those fears, what are those aligned actions? And I'm also someone that I get paralyzed in the waiting. So I won't do things until, okay, I'll stop coaching when I get pregnant again. When I realized that I was doing that, I'm like, I can't decide then to do it. If this is something I know that it's going to open up space for me to receive, like I have to do that now.
Because it's then blocking. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'll cut my hair after I'm done having kids because I'm going to lose it all over again. Okay, well, I chopped my hair off in March. Like there's these things I was realizing that I started listing out. What am I waiting to do? And can I do them right now? That was huge. Stepping through fear and feeling like...
What were those fears?
Yeah. I think, one of them was stopping coaching. This fear of, actually, now that I'm saying this to you, taking 3 to 5 hours out of my week. Well, what will I do at that time?
Wow.
Okay, well, First of all, I have a job.
You have a full-time job.
So I could continue to, work. I also don't have a lot of personal time. So if that hour could be for me, that hour could go towards my husband, that hour could go towards Hayes.
I'm curious too, because with that time, the first thing you said was work, but also, what are you afraid of happening in the stillness? What does the stillness represent to you? If Hayes was good, if you weren't with your husband, if you didn't have to work and you just had those hours of absolute nothingness, what happens?
The first thought that comes is almost like fear of being bored.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so used to being so busy. Like, what will happen if I'm bored? I have no room in my life right now to feel bored. So, and this is a version of me. So I'm a natural avoidant. And I know Sawa has said that before. So there's a lot of space in there. Like, what am I avoiding? I don't know. I mean, I feel like I give myself the time in the morning to connect, but that's also really structured. This is the time in the day where I connect with myself versus allowing it to be another time in the day. I have listed out things. I usually do like intentions for each month. And I was like, what's my intention going to be, once coaching ends? And it was like actually seeing girlfriends. I haven't done that in a really long time. Cooking a recipe. I know that sounds so silly, but I mean, I cook dinner every single night.
Wow.
We don't typically eat out, but it's quick and easy. Like some type of protein and a vegetable, and which is so great. Hayes is a great eater, but they're not these like elaborate recipes because I don't have time for it. So I guess the extra space that'll come in is to explore things that I haven't had time for in a really long time. I say it's my mom era, and really what I should be saying is it's a season of nurturing. I feel like I've always been the nurturer. I mean, I've had to mother my mom, I had to mother my brother, and I was the friend when we'd be in Vegas that would be like, all right, it's time to go. It's time to go back.
Cabs.
Like,
Yeah.
you go back to the hotel, or keeping tabs on everyone. Like, have you had any water lately? Like, I've always been that nurturer. And to say this to you right now is I think that changing the identity of so much of it being towards career, and that now that this is truly like just having a quick moment,
Feel it all.
I guess nurturing myself a little bit more, honestly.
Yeah.
I haven't given it a lot of time because I think about everybody else, including my clients, which makes me so sad to step away from them. But I think that this is a time to nurture myself, which I'm going to be 39 in May. So it's been a really busy and exhausting focus on everyone else.
I think there's a lot of people that can relate to what you're going through and the position you're in. I think it's really inspiring and expansive that you're taking a stand and saying, no, I need to shift the priority. I mean, this is what you're talking about here. And what I'm seeing is, and I really identify with this dynamic so much. I was through a very similar narrative. When you have to play the role of adult as a kid, the fear that came in for me and that might come in for other people is, well, if I don't have the answers, we're in chaos.
Yes.
And we are not safe. And I need to figure it out. And that can come in from emotional support to a parent, from physical support, like physically, making lunches or taking care of needs. But what happens is the kid doesn't get to be a kid. And the kid thinks that this capability is actually what keeps you safe in the world. And it makes you really capable and very driven and incredible at what you do. And I think that something needs to get taken care of. Treadmill never ends. You then have a career that needs to get taken care of, and then a home, and then a kid, and then the list goes on. And there's no moment to really stop and say, whoa, where the heck do I fit in? When do I get to just be? When do I get to explore my emotional landscape and meet my needs and all of that? And I think it's so common. I think it's so common for mothers to jump into this, even if they don't identify with having that role as a kid. When you step into motherhood, it is all about your kid. Your sense of self kind of takes a huge back seat.
Yeah.
And having to reclaim that sense of self. Where do my needs matter? And you can say, yes, it's definitely for your family, it's definitely for your kids, but how can it also be for you, for your inner child, for little Heather to just freaking chill and have the best time?
Yeah, and I hadn't really, thank you.
Yeah.
Talk about a live breakthrough, everybody. I think I was just so focused on like being excited to just own motherhood. And which I do want to say this is that like, I didn't know I wanted to be a mom. When we got married, it was kind of like, if it happens, great. And if it doesn't, fine. Like we've got this great, fulfilling life. And then, you know, when we decided to do it and then it happened, and I definitely had this struggle of like trying to fight it. And then all of a sudden now owning it, which is beautiful. I was thinking that that was the story. But now in talking to you, while I'm going to be nurturing a little bit more inward in my home, really, it's the more that I nurture myself, my husband will feel that, my son will feel that. It'll open up space to receive, hopefully, so at some point, like another baby. You know, and like I said, I still have a full-time job. So it's not like I'm getting here to say like I'm completely just focusing on that altogether. But I think that there will be a little bit more room for myself. And it's funny because that wasn't it wasn't even on my radar.
So interesting how the universe gives you exactly what you need. Exactly what you need. You know, you can have all these grand visions and dreams and things on your manifestation list, and the universe is really pushing you to your authenticity, to your highest, fullest self that sometimes we can't even see for ourselves.
Absolutely. When I think about, you know, the photo that I look at myself as like a little girl, it's so funny. It's this photo of me in the backyard at my childhood home, and I'm in a bikini, and I've got these heart-shaped pink glasses on, and I'm posing, and it's very much like, look at me, world, like this super confident, and like there's so much of that confidence that's still in me. But I think that picture was taken prior to my parents getting a divorce, and like that's when I like was still a kid, and then, you know, was really forced into being an adult, or, you know, having to handle adult things like really early. And so, yeah, I think that, you know, there's some room for childish play. Even when I host dinners, because I love gatherings, and I see somebody like snacking too much, I'm like, don't ruin your dinner. Right? I mean, there's just so much of like the parenting, mothering side of me that I want to eat dessert before dinner then, right? Like what are all these like silly, funny things that like I just never got to do because there wasn't any room for it. So I guess the moral of the story, Jess, is that I'm opening up space for me.
And now you can be that expander in this exact thing that you needed so much expansion on as a kid.
Absolutely.
I'm curious if you identify with this. A lot of times my therapist is giving me homework of like free play. She'll be like, Sunday, no checklist, no regimen, free play. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And it would legitimately stress me out because I was like, what if I make the wrong choice? Like, I kind of want to go hiking, but what if hiking's like not that fun? What if more fun is like if I do this? Like, yeah. I would spin out because the amount of time that I would give myself free play was so small that there was so much pressure for it to be perfect because I didn't know when it was going to come back around again. Do you ever feel like that?
This is really funny. So Hayes sleeps from 12 to 3 every day, right? And so during the week, it doesn't matter because I'm working. But on Saturday and Sunday, it's like, how much can I fit in those 3 hours, right? Mm-hmm. My husband will take a nap. And I'm like, you want a nap right now? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, there's things to do. And he's like, I'm taking a nap. So like, he's such a expander.
He
Like
is.
in those 3 hours, I'm like, can I get to the grocery store? What can I food prep ahead of time? Blah, blah, blah. And so I think that even just the beginning of that is looking at what is something that I can do for myself in those 3 hours that are not task related, right? That are not structured, goal oriented. I mean, I'm not a napper, but maybe
you were this whole time.
time.
When you are in this shifting the neural pathways from my identity as someone who is capable and executes and all of that to I'm actually safe to not have to run the ship and be in control of every little thing. What DIs do you use to support you in that?
So I'm a big journaler. I find that I get so much further in my journal process. So I listen to DIs while journaling. My first podcast episode with you, which was November of 2019, it was about me hiking and listening to DIs. I don't have that availability at the moment. Maybe I will to be able to do that again soon. But now I listen to DIs while I do that. And I love the fear DI right now. So many fears are coming up, but it's so incredible to be able to see your fears and be able to either not laugh at them, but just kind of be like, this is not even real, but also speak to them, right? And I think we kind of talked about this on the monthly check-in that your fears are there to support you. And so to acknowledge them and be thankful for them, but recognize them. And then I love the aligned action DI. And not just because I'm so action oriented, but what I like about it is as I think about if these fears were gone, what would I do differently? And it's like this vision of what's possible. And I love that. I love that, like seeing myself not have these fears and to see like, what would I do? It's like this like little movie, the way that I look at it. And so, yeah, I feel like right now it's the fear DI and it's the aligned action because I like them together. I think they're really powerful together. So I feel like those are the ones that I've been doing the most. And honestly, this is making me want to go back into the new authentic self DI. And I want to go back in with this idea of like, because I had done it as like stepping into like true motherhood, but I want to do it with the concept of nurturing self. I want to go in and look at my authentic self as me being a priority because that's not something that it's been a priority when it comes to career. I'm a priority when it comes to the job I want, how much money I'm asking. But when it comes to me being a priority, and when I say in the feminine, what I mean is joy, pleasure, play, ease, love, emotion, soft, all of that, I have not made myself a priority in that area. It's uncomfortable.
Yes. I'm also getting the ping. I'm probably going to test this out for myself and curious if anyone else, resonates, but thinking of going into the inner child DI and trying to speak to the part of you or me or whoever's doing it. What did that little kid who felt like they had to be so capable and so in control, what are they feeling? What do they need? Because I bet that talking to that part of us, I need to go like play in the dirt. I need to go like barefoot in nature. I need to go in a pool and swim and eat cake for breakfast. How do you honor that little version of you?
Yeah. And what's so funny is that when that new DI came out, I hadn't had an emotional feeling in a DI in a really long time. I cried hard in that DI. I was actually at the Korean spa, which is a great place to do a DI, by the way. And I was like in like this, it was called the Forest Room. And I was like listening to it. It was so cool. Anyways, I remember talking to myself about, because a block that comes up for me is that people's reaction is a reflection of me. And so I had to like really separate that out. So I was able to do that in with her. So I'm excited of what you're just saying is to go back in with inner child and say like, it's not your job to do it all, be it all. It's not your job to literally take care of every freaking thing. It's okay to have room for open space, white space. I think that what you said is, what are you going to do with that hour? Instantly, it's like, okay, well, how am I going to fill it? And I think the goal is going to be, how can I not fill it?
Yes. One last thing I want to touch on before we go here. One of the things in this letting go process is letting go of coaching.
Yeah.
And I think for people, that is a really hard thing to identify because it does authentically check off your authentic code. It does, you love it. It lights you up. It brings you joy. Like, I'm a generator. If things light me up, that's a yes. More of that. That feels like it guides my purpose. So, how do you discern and be able to say, it's a yes, but this isn't the season for it? Or it's a yes, but if I keep staying here, that's almost my safe zone and I need to grow. How do you get to that place?
When I look at my manifestation list, part of that, a big part of that is calling in, like another baby. And so when I think about that and I think about having room and having space to receive, coaching is taking that space away currently. And so when I hate to say like weigh it out, but it's just that feeling of like, this is something that we really want. And not to say it's a direct correlation. I really want to say, like, if I keep coaching, I can't get pregnant. Like, please do not take what I'm saying. I'm saying energetically, of so much time and energy that I'm giving out to others in a very loving way, how can I bring that back in? Of course, I didn't include that in myself, right? I instantly went to like another baby and obviously my son and my husband. And I even was thinking about like girlfriends, right? But I think that in this conversation, we've found that really stepping away from something that it makes me sad, truly adore, is really for me.
Yeah.
And that is so hard. But I also know that if I ever want to do this again, I absolutely can. And I don't know what that looks like. I have no idea. But I also know from TBM, right? I've been doing this work since 2017. There is not one thing that I haven't received. Not one thing. And I say that because I want people to hear that. You can literally have anything that you want if you take the time to look to see, do you feel deserving of it? Why don't you have it? What's your story? Where did it come from? What is the root? This work has changed my life so much that I never, ever, ever have to worry about what's coming because I have the tools and the resources to make it happen. And you better believe that, like, if there's something that I don't have, I'm going to figure out why and know that it's not my choice on when. It's about opening up and allowing it to happen and surrender, which is really freaking hard. But every time I do, it happens. So all that to say is that if I ever decide I want to coach again, I know that I can. So there's comfort in that and knowing that, like, maybe not now, but there's no more lack in my life of like, if I don't do it now, it's never going to happen again. It's really allowing for space, I guess.
The whole journey that you're on right now, I think, is one of the bravest things that you can do. I think it's one of the scariest things you can do, but I think it's one of the bravest things you can absolutely do. Yeah, you're such an expander for me in this journey, putting yourself first, honoring yourself, and doing it with such grace. And I know this is not a word, but like badassery is what comes to mind. Like, I just see you just so, even in this new chapter, you're doing it with such a confidence and a secure sense of self that it's really beautiful to see.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. And it's so funny to think that like we've come full circle. We did this podcast together in 2019 and you were the one, I think, who reached out. It aired in February of 2020 and it was like, I think we want to start coaching, so it's just, thank you for being a part of this with me. And obviously it's been beautiful to watch you grow as well. I know I've always tried to be a vision holder for you. So thank you for doing that for me.
Thank you so much, Heather. We're going to miss you, but everyone is definitely going to connect with you and keep up and follow along your journey. And I know that we will still be continued contact and everything. And who knows what the future holds.
Definitely. Thank you, TBM community. You have touched my life in so many ways, and I hope I can say the same for you all.
Thank you, Heather.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning into the episode, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, we did. And in case you're not totally ready to join the pathway yet, I wanted to share a few of our free offerings that I'll often suggest to people as a little bit of a blueprint to get them started on their manifestation journey. The first place I like to direct people completely for free is the motivation. You can see it linked below or on our homepage as our testimony library. And it's categorized by different subjects, whether you're calling in career, money, love, wellness, and much more. When you're reading about a member's experience of what they manifested, you're actually seeing to believe and showing your subconscious that that very thing is possible for you. The second place I like to direct people, if you haven't listened to it on this podcast yet, please go back to the episode titled Manifestation 101, where you'll learn the basics of neural manifestation to truly understand this process. So go ahead and check out those free resources, the motivation and the episode Manifestation 101, all linked below. And in an effort to make sure to have representation in this process series, go ahead and submit any process testimonials you have, especially to our LGBTQ+ community, our BIPOC, as well as the Ys, which is anyone in the community who is 45 and over. All right, we'll be back next week.